Play at Novibet.
Well, hello and welcome back to the IrishRacing.com podcast, brought to you in association with Novibet. Once again, I'm joined by Emma Nagle and Johnny Ward to discuss all of the week's big talking points. There is plenty to get through this week. I'm sitting in for Vincent Finnegan. He's off on holiday. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. But there is plenty to talk about. Emma, I want to start with you as well and the Flemensface drug case. I'll put it at the top of the list just because it rhymes quite nicely. But can you tell us more about the story and what is going on there?
Yeah, to be honest, it was a kind of a case that was pretty bizarre to meet. So basically, this horse, Flemensface, he tested positive after winning his point-to-point on the 12th of March. He then went on to run in a bumper on the 10th of April in Mallow, winning that contest. And after that, I think on the 20th of April, about 10 days after his win, he went through the sales ring at Cheltenham April sales and was sold to Lucinda Russell for £100,000. And now somewhere in the interim, it was revealed that he had in fact tested positive for clenbuterol, which is a substance which aids horses with any breathing or respiratory issues. And so he was subsequently disqualified from his bumper win, his point-to-point win. And I think it was revealed that Lucinda Russell has also returned him after buying him for £100,000 through the sales ring. It's just kind of a case that presents so many different issues. It's kind of interesting to get all your views on it, I suppose. I suppose the first issue is kind of the confidence in Irish horses going through the sales ring now is going to be massively dented. I think Peter Scudamore referenced it in his article with the Racing Post, saying, owners now are going to be maybe questioning horses they buy that go through a sales ring. You just have to question, how did this horse, how was it allowed to go after winning its point-to-point, testing positive? I think it was about 40 days or so after his point-to-point one, he went and ran in the Cork bumper. Is it just the case that these results are so slow to filter through that the result of the prohibited substance wasn't revealed to authorities at that stage? But if not, how could the IHRB allow a horse to even be entered in a race if there was a question about the prohibited substance test that was revealed in the point-to-point? The trainer declined the opportunity for a B sample, which kind of tells you something in itself. And one thing as well that's kind of very interesting to me is the horse is banned for 14 months, but the trainer's only banned for 6. Doesn't make a whole pile of sense to me, but yeah, it's interesting to see what you think of it, I suppose.
Well, that was going to be the point I was going to raise, actually. So why is the horse getting banned for longer than the trainer? Johnny, your thoughts?
Really strange case, Joe. Really strange case. And as Emma says, so many questions. I think the integrity of Irish racing is very important here because, the point-to-point ring and generally the young horses market is so important. There needs to be respect for the Irish kind of racing, I guess, for its reputation over here, that this should never happen. And I suppose the point in the Racing Post that the IHRB confirmed, this is just from the Racing Post article, that Ahern was aware of the positive test results 3 weeks before Flemensface was sold at Tattersall's. That's a remarkable state of affairs, because you'd have to have sympathy for Peter Scudamore and connections, obviously, who thought and seemingly really liked the horse as well. And it just raised a lot of questions. But I think at least we're shown that, something is being done here, but I don't really get the ban. I think the 6-month ban is probably really on the lenient side if you're going to give the horse over double that. So it's very unsatisfactory, and it's just been one of those months for Irish racing. We've got a lot of bizarre stuff happening, and this was well up there.
Yeah, exactly. And again, going back to we talked last week about the punters maybe getting some money back or being overpaid in certain situations. People that have backed that horse, or lost to it as well. What's going to happen with them? They're not going to be very enthusiastic about just the general game of Irish racing, I guess.
Absolutely. It's one of the unfortunate things about if a horse is subsequently disqualified, that as a punter you have no recourse, and I guess there's no sign of that changing anytime soon, but it's very unsatisfactory.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Irish punter as well, we wanted to discuss a show that went out on Irish TV. Maybe, Emma, you can just give us an introduction to it. And I know Johnny's got some strong views on the story itself.
Yeah, so there was a show on Virgin Media during the week where it was kind of a discussion on problem gambling in the country, which is kind of, I suppose, reaction to the gambling regulation bill, which is coming out. This is going to put kind of a blanket ban on all gambling being advertised on Irish television between, I think it's 5:30 a.m. and 9 p.m. at night, which obviously presents massive issues to Irish racing as an industry, you know, with coverage on both terrestrial TV and obviously racing TV, which will be a massive source of income for Irish racing. Racing TV have already commented that, you know, Irish racing will not be a commercially viable product for them going forward if this ban isn't if it isn't changed, I suppose, in certain ways to allow kind of allowances for different industries within gambling. It's not just going to be totally blanket across all forms of gambling. So yeah, this show was aired with a number of different guests presenting points, and I think the biggest trouble with it is that there was a lot of points presented. I think there was one stat put out that 3% of the entire population of Ireland were hospitalised due to gambling, which is, I mean, that's just insane. That's 150,000 people in hospital at any given time because of gambling related issues. I mean, it's just the fact that these points were allowed to be presented on kind of terrestrial TV without any challenge to it. I'm sure Johnny will have more to say on it as well.
Well, like I've done interviews, Joe, where I didn't ask the right questions, or I let the interviewee kind of get away with stuff, and that can happen. And I think in an instance like this as well, and this is a topic that's, I guess it's quite an emotional topic, but the guy who's doing the interview, he or she at times mightn't really know the ins and outs of this, and then you've the lay person who reads that this stat about people, the percentage of people gambling £1,000 a week. I mean, like £1,000 a week sounds an insane amount of money, but it's not when it's regurgitated. And that person, if that person, I think it was €1,000 a month. So that's like €1,000 a month is basically, that could be just a handful of bets over a weekend, and you're playing up your winnings and so on and so forth. You're having a few bets on the sport, and then you know, if you gamble €1,000 a month, the chances are you're going to lose about 50 quid, give or take. I'm not saying that's ideal, but we have to have a bit of personal responsibility here. Nobody's compelling you to gamble, and I think Minister Brown, what his comments or his kind of spat with HRI over the TV deal, where Minister Brown says that, you know, the HRI entered into an agreement for media rights next year whilst the government was basically in recess. And I would be worried that there's been a chasm growing now between Minister Brown and HRI, because horse racing in Ireland has done very well from the state for a long, long time. Go back to sort of Charlie Haughey, really. And horse racing has benefited from a very benevolent state, and a state that sees racing as very important. But my reading of Minister Brown and his comments would lend me to think that he doesn't realise how important the likes of racing TV's gambling ads are to the subscription. And I'm sorry, if you are going to allow parents to bring up kids as they wish, and you see Enoch Burke and all the lads, you see the product of their upbringing and the adults that they've become today. And if you let, say, parents bring their children to church from the age of 3, 4, 5, and you allow them, you give them the kind of responsibility to look after their kids, you have to give them the responsibility that if they subscribe to Racing TV, which is basically a betting channel, a racing channel, that their kids are not going to become gambling addicts. I mean, it's complete nanny state nonsense here. We need the minister to get his head around this, because racing is under serious pressure in terms of people betting on it and affordability checks and all of that, and this would make it an awful lot worse, and I am genuinely very worried.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, but I mean, it's a difficult one, because obviously you want to get people into horse racing. So I mean, could you almost make a case for the fact that racing is for 18 plus only? I mean, could you make that case, or do you want to try and get kids enthusiastic about the sport when the sport is mainly about betting at the end of the day?
Yeah, but you see, if you pay for Racing TV as a channel, I mean, kids are indoctrinated to, you know what a mobile phone is practically before they know what food is nowadays, and they're going to, you know, they are susceptible to what's going on TV, they are susceptible to what's going on phones. But if you're an adult you are paying for a racing/gambling website, you should be able to basically advertise gambling ads on that channel, because gambling and racing go hand in hand. It's not like if you were to ban, like, betting at, say, football games and stuff like that, I wouldn't have an issue with that at all. And I think that there have been some very good moves made in terms of the kind of the worrying trend that gambling and sport is so interlinked. But racing is different to that. Racing just not survive without betting. Simple.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the kind of the case in point, right? If we want Irish racing to continue, then you're going to need the betting side to support it. Emma, have you got any additional thoughts yourself on this?
Yeah, like just kind of want to pick up on a point Johnny made there. Like it's a personal responsibility. Like I think some of the guests, there was a kind of a popular kind of figure in, I don't know what, he's kind of a influencer or something like that, I suppose, online personality maybe. Rory Stories was one kind of guest on the show, and you know, he's coming on and he's telling these emotive stories about how he got into going racing when he's 16 and getting gambling, but you know, you have to kind of question at what stage does personal responsibility come into this whole thing. Should it be the state's responsibility to stop you gambling on horses? And I think one thing that's never really mentioned in these kind of debates about gambling issues is, like, you know, it's always racing seems to get the brunt of the blame, whereas the National Lottery and scratch cards and any other related game is probably the most common form of gambling in the country, and that never seems to get any kind of blame for the issues that people might be suffering with. But yeah, I think just using kind of popular characters, I suppose, in the country to tell their stories without really, you know, you have obviously you have sympathy for people who are suffering with the issues, but I don't think it's the state's responsibility to solve everyone's problems. And by restricting gambling on something like horse racing, I don't think it's a very productive thing. You know, I think it's totally different to gambling on the likes of a casino game and stuff like that. You know, it's kind of it's a skilled kind of hobby, I suppose, more so than a total by chance kind of event. So, you know, I think, and the government don't seem to understand that, which is worrying. The comments from the minister around the whole issue with the racing TV deal and the advertising ban is worrying, because they just don't really seem to be able to differentiate racing from other forms of gambling.
I've done work for bookmakers, Joe. I still work for a bookmaker periodically, and I will call out bookmaker practices all day long. You know, I can't really get bets on, and I find that frustrating. So I just want to throw it out there that, like, you know, I have done work for bookmakers. I will call out bookmakers when I see ill practice or whatever, but at the same time, this is personal responsibility. Gambling is a lot of fun for the vast majority of people, and racing needs it, and the minister needs to understand that.
And of course, I mean, this show obviously being sponsored by Novibet as well. I mean, we are on the one side of the table, but I think it's good that we actually kind of get this discussion going, because yeah, obviously we need to get to an agreement somewhere. And I think as well, what you said about bookmaker practices is maybe it's our job to also kind of explain how you can take personal responsibility. So obviously there are, well, I say obviously, but not many people, not everyone necessarily knows, but bookmakers have, safer gambling tools available. So you can set your own limits within your means. I mean, so I think that's just a recommendation for myself. I have worked for a bookmaker as well, and maybe there's not kind of as clearly advertised as, say, the appeal of winning a big accumulator or opening bonuses. Maybe they just need to make a better job of actually saying, look, you can set limits for yourself. So you can actually then go and deposit a certain amount a month, and then you'll be set. You cannot go over that limit. But yeah, maybe just isn't being kind of advertised as much as it could be. But that's where we come in, and we can advise people on how to do that kind of stuff and take, like you say, responsibility. Well, I think that for now kind of covers that. I know there's plenty to talk about in that sphere, but we also want to cover the racing itself. So Emma, I want to kind of come to you with some of the racing from last weekend. I think Inspiral was the big story of the weekend. Obviously, Frankie putting up his 500th win at Newmarket. But to tell us more, you were actually opposing her, weren't you?
Yeah, I took on Inspiral with the French filly. She's just one I can never seem to get her right. Every time I back her, she loses, and whenever I don't back her, then she just seems to absolutely trounce the field. And that was kind of the case again on Saturday. Look, I suppose I was probably a bit foolish to oppose her. You know, she's probably at her best, and I think she probably gets a bit of an unfair rap as well about being inconsistent. You know, there's probably fair enough excuses for most times she's been beaten. Like, she likes to be relatively fresh. You know, when she's returned too quickly, she can disappoint. When she has her ground, she likes kind of a firmer surface underneath her. So like when she has her kind of optimum condition, she normally delivers, in fairness, and she did kind of emphatically on Saturday. She was very, very impressive. Whether now will she head to the QE2, take on Paddington and Tahira? Not totally sure. Will it be maybe too fast for her? But they might take a swing at it. Yeah, she was very, very impressive. And Frankie got his 500 Newmarket winner. It's kind of a new milestone every weekend for Frankie. You know, it's always something last for him now. So it's getting a bit repetitive now, to be honest.
And Johnny, for you as well, any standout performances of the weekend?
Well, yeah, Inspiral. I think Inspiral is just a bit of a Frankel at times. You know, she's extremely good on her day, and I think particularly when she's a good gallop sit off, she's a really good horse. And I've gone about pedigrees, but Inspiral is obviously by Frankel, who's now the sire at the moment, and you saw the bidding more when Frankel was involved last week, and some of the prices paid for Frankel horse now is staggering. But Galileo is obviously still the daddy, and I thought it was interesting. I think it's his last bunch of 2-year-olds. If it's not the last one, he might have 2-year-olds next year. But Galileo obviously still had 3 winners at Royal Ascot this year, and Illinois, who started off in the Curragh, was sent off 4-1. Was weak in the market. Now generally Galileo horses, Aidan O'Brien trains, they don't tend to win on debut. I think he sort of almost like deliberately trained them a little bit differently as he got to know them and saw them very much as 3-year-olds. But Illinois, who is out of his Galileo Danehill cross, started off in that maiden on Saturday, and as I say, it was quite weak in the betting, and it was hard enough to know how good the maiden was, but like there were serious pedigrees in it, like Dark Angel, Frankel, Sayuni, Galileo, all of these horses were represented in it, and Illinois won by 3 lengths, bolted up, and could be a really, really nice horse, probably over at least 1.5 miles, maybe 1.6 miles next season. But Galileo has not gone away, you know, and I thought Illinois was definitely a horse to take out of the week.
Definitely one to add to the horse tracker on irishracing.com. Emma, as well, for you, any stand-up performances from the Curragh on Saturday?
Stand-up performances, I suppose. Aussie Girl was very impressive for the Fozzie Stackyard. She jumped out in front and made all very tough. She probably deserved that victory. Kitty Rose maybe was slightly disappointing for her backers in the feature race on the day. It was a Group 3 Staffordstown Stud Stakes, I think it was called. Beaten by Content, which was kind of a reversal of their form when they met on the Irish Champions weekend at Leopardstown, which maybe might make you think Kitty Rose underperformed slightly. Conditions probably weren't totally in her favour. She probably would want a bit better ground, and I don't think being out in front on her own, kind of making her own running, helped her too much either. But you have to give a bit of credit to the O'Brien winner at Content. I think it was Chris.
Another big drifter as well, Emma, 20s from 10s, and there's a strike for the integrity of the game.
I think it was Chris Hayes' third ride for Aidan O'Brien and second winner. So it's a partnership you'll be watching maybe going forward. But look, she was good. She's impeccably bred, I suppose, as many of Aidan's are. I think she's out of dual Nunthorpe winner Mecca's Angel, and obviously Boy Galileo as well. So she should be a nice 3-year-old going forward as well. But a horse to follow maybe for me for this week was probably one from the point-to-point fields. Declan Queally had a very impressive winner in the 4-year-old at Lochray yesterday.
He actually touted that horse off on the telly to me about a week and a half ago, and I forgot about it. So there we are.
Yeah. There was a lot of talk about him, and he was very well supported in the ring before he took off. Jumped off, and I think I wasn't there now to see it live, but I watched the video back online, and they went a savage gallop the whole way. There was only 2 finishes in the end, but it was, I think, quite a fast time. And this fella, he showed a really, really impressive turn of foot to gallop away from the second horse. Won by as much as he liked. I think about 16 lengths was the winning distance.
What's his name?
Olympi de Cerci. Is, if I'm pronouncing that right, we might put a caption in it maybe for the video, but I think it was the first winner for his sire, Bram Thot, in a point-to-point anyway. But yeah, I presume he'll be for sale now, but wherever he'll be one to watch, definitely.
Lovely stuff. And also looking ahead to this week, I mean, the jumps are back. They're kind of officially now. It's kind of getting to that time of year, all things exciting. So Punchestown got a couple of fixtures. The standout race on Wednesday. Got the return of another Indo conflated Delta work going against each other. Johnny, can you give us some insight into first of all, that race, and also which races you're looking forward to this week.
Yeah, well, the Dream to Share starting off in the 150. I mean, I've said this a bit recently. I think the fixture list is so bloated at the moment that it's dangerous that people are basically being incentivized almost not to go racing because 35-minute gaps at tracks and 8 race cards that kind of go on all day and all of this. But to get my negativity out of the way, I would genuinely go to Punchestown alone to see a Dream to Share. I think he's very, very good, and just the whole story of. Obviously, he's rider as well, but John Kiley and Thomas John training this horse at the age of 86 now, and could conceivably have a champion hurdle horse in him down the line. So, as much as he's not going to be a backable price, I don't need to have a bet in the race to really enjoy him running. I think he's very, very exciting. And then obviously, we have Lucid Dreams, who could have run in Galway last week. I was actually keen to take on Farinelli, but I didn't think he'd be beaten when Lucid Dreams taking out the race. But in any event, Lucid Dreams could rock up to take on Hercule de Soy in the 3:35. So that's a very good race to look forward to as well. And as much as John Ryan, he asked a lot of his horses. This horse is really, really good and responded every time. And he's an 8-year-old who's, I suppose, making up for lost time. And then we obviously have, as you say, Manel Indo making his return. So loads to look forward to Wednesday.
Yeah, and how about for you, Emma, as well? Any particular races?
Yeah, I kind of echo what Johnny's saying there. Like, a Dream to Share is probably, one of the most exciting prospects, unbeaten in bumpers, obviously. Yeah, he's one you just love to go see in the flesh. I was lucky I saw him last year, but yes, first time over hurdles. In the story with John Kiley, like it's one I think everyone can get behind. Yeah, Lucid Dreams. I think we mentioned him last week before he was supposed to face Farinelli. He's one I'm kind of looking forward to as well, because he's just been trainer John Ryan has so much confidence in him. He thinks he might be a grade 1 horse, and he's meeting some pretty decent types there. Hercule de Soleil and Pat Duro for Willie and Gavin Cromwell. So that's an interesting race. And of course, Nella Indo, Conflated, Delta Work, and a few others facing off in the feature, I suppose, is the grade 3 chase. Always exciting to see those top kind of 3 mile chasers coming back out. So yeah, I think this is probably the real start of the jump season. Probably kicking it off probably with the top class horses.
Absolutely. And any mention for the weekend's racing as well? I know the Dewhurst, the Cesarewitch. Any interest there?
Yeah, I suppose City of Troy for Aidan O'Brien is probably an exciting one heading to the Dewhurst. I haven't had too much of a look at it now, but yeah, he's probably one of Aidan's, if not his most exciting 2-year-old. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
And for you, Johnny, as well, the weekend looking further ahead?
Yeah, I love the Dewhurst as a race. I'm still a little bit wary of the reasons given for City of Troy's not performing in the national stakes, because I do wonder, kind of putting words in their mouths here, right? I do wonder, did Coolmore think they were going to win the race with the eventual winner anyway, the Dubawi horse? But in any event, hopefully we will see City of Troy. Just love the impression that he made. Justifies being having a really good run of it, and hopefully he rocks up. He's like 4 to 7 best price here, but that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, plenty to look forward to this week, plenty to discuss as well, as always, here on irishracing.com. If you've got your own thoughts as well, please do comment below. We'll love to interact with you here on YouTube. And finally, as well, just want to send out our condolences to the family of Tommy Kinnan, of course, passed away today, father of Mick. So yeah, condolences to the whole family. May he rest in peace. Thank you for watching. Thank you for Johnny and Emma, as always, and to Novibet for sponsoring today's episode. Thanks again, and we'll see you again very soon.